Ninja! Ninja! Ninja!
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the walls. The chair is against the walls. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our daily gun show. Come to live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns for an hour. And it is episode 1200 something. I don't keep track anymore. Keeping track of your show number is for the lesser shows that are under 1,000 episodes. That's something that you do when you're under 1,000 episodes. Somewhere around 800, I quit paying attention, but I figured it would be interesting to do an 888 and a 999 and on a 111. So we'll eventually keep track so that we can do a 222. But that's the only reason to keep track anymore. So the show's been on since 2016, and that means that we've fiddled with it over the years. And one of the things we've did is change the format, and now it is basically a, well, it isn't anything. So I'm going to go over here. We're screen sharing the thing right now, and I'm hoping you can hear me. I'm assuming you can hear me. I'm going to go over to the YouTube side. Yeah, you can hear me. And then go over to the description area here. And we put the stuff we've been paying attention to over on the YouTube predominantly in the comments here. So in the description, I should say. So you're part of the show when you're watching it like this, right? You got the option to go over here and flip this to live chat. You should always do that. Top chat is for suckers, right? That's just for chumps. But if you click on live chat, you're getting the real deal. That's the whole thing. A lot of chats don't tell you that. They want you to stay on that top chat stuff where they keep all the sales and all the discount codes. But down here on the live chat, it's where the honest working people hang out and do their chatting. So you can type stuff into here, and then that's part of the conversation that we're having here, or get lost because this is all about having a conversation. So anyway, I have it down in the description here. We've been keeping track of stuff we've been watching. So the first thing we got here is this gun control debate explained. Oh yeah, this is Walt over here. Starting a series on the gun control debate. So he's going to be talking about ethical arguments, emotional arguments, legal arguments, language arguments, and then you can kind of describe the series. I've got my little portable heater on in here because I'm kind of far away from the rest of the heater. So this keeps this room a little bit warmer. I don't know what the noise by it. Am I cooking my printer? All right, so Walt's got a pretty decent channel going on over there, and he's already at 651 subscribers, and he ain't playing no BS garbage games. So that's reaching people that are paying attention to what he's doing. 20 likes, 83 views on a video like this. This is the future of 2A right here. So we got it linked. Go check it out if you want. It's only like 5 minutes long. It's not even a long video. It's just an introduction. It's 8 minutes long. So then we got the Daily Bullet. This is a dude who I've seen a couple of times. Let's see if anybody chats tonight about this one. This is the Director of External Affairs. So well, we'll talk about that in a bit. But that's the guy who's, what do you want to say, like employed by the Second Amendment Foundation. And I don't know why it's difficult to explain his job. He's basically a coordinator. He's somebody who helps grassroots efforts. And I don't know if he's a facilitator or a coordinator, but I guess that would make a difference. Then we got Crump had a chat today with some dude named Jordan, who runs a place that sells 80% pistols. They talked about that a bit. I just seen an interesting video. I don't know. I think it was just posted at me. I can't imagine why it would show it to me. I haven't been watching anything on Insignia or Army, really. But it was, I've never heard of this channel before. It was explanation and infotainment type of thing about warrant officers, where they come from, and the insignias. It wasn't really all that interesting, but I threw it in there since I watched it. So that's some of the stuff we chatted about. We'll see if anybody shows up. Right now, it's saying that there's nobody in here, so it's me and DJ. So I'm going to throw a link out there, and DJ jump in if he wants. Otherwise, it's the end of the Daily Gun Show. Nobody shows up, then it's not a show. It's just like a real gun show. Some, what do you call them, gun show promoter is going to turn it on, right? It's going to find a place and set it up and put out tickets and let people know it's there. And they can do a good job or a poor job of promoting it, I guess. They can discriminate or non-discriminate about who's they're going to give tables to, and sort of, that'd be called curating the tables to create an atmosphere that people either dig or hate. And I guess we'll keep doing a Daily Gun Show because we got a bunch of people jumping in. So we throw a link. You can click on that link. These people did. And then you can jump in and we can talk about stuff. All right, go ahead.
You sounded the call and we responded. Digging it.
So, like, see, we got a couple of stuff we can talk about, or unless you guys got topics, it's Tuesday. So,
yeah, I unfortunately missed most of what you just reviewed, but I did catch up on some much needed sleep. So I look forward to other people's analysis.
And that's good. Plus, it's good to get the hell away. I think if you mainline anything, it's not good for you. So mainlining any like medium, just hanging out on Instagram can be bad. Hanging out on YouTube can definitely be bad. But hanging out in just one topic can be bad, right? So it's good to get away, and either intentionally or unintentionally, get a break from it. But anyway, anybody seen any of these videos that we talked about?
I saw the Daily Bullet and Crump Show. I meant to watch Walt's, but when I went to go back and click on it, the thumbnail thing had disappeared from my notifications, and I forgot to go search it afterwards.
Yeah, we were almost 2A, dude. But you're 8 minutes, right? You couldn't watch an 8-minute video. You couldn't. You were that close to being 2A.
I'm gonna say I lost all my 2A cred last night because I fell asleep.
Oh, is that what happened? That's what I kind of figured.
Yep. Yeah, I ended up staying up all night after the closer on Sunday night talking to Black Cat. Him and I had a pretty good post-chat conversation, and then
here's your problem. All them cakes, them flapjacks that they're passing around over there. First, I don't think they wear a mask, but here's the other thing. It's full of glutens. What are glutens going to do? Put you to sleep. So that's what happens. They should put warnings that they don't have to legally. All right, well, so we can talk about that. Otherwise, I don't know if Woods, he's busy. He always does stuff during the day. If he's had a chance to watch these or not.
We got all that work and stuff to do. I didn't get to check out any of them. I'm super looking forward to Walt, because that's the thing we've been asking him to do, is like how to better our 2A discussions, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and you've seen how he does. Well, here, let's just watch it because it's 8 minutes and he ain't going to care. What is he going to do? Sue us? Was he a lawyer?
Welcome to the introduction to the Gun Control Debate Explained series. This is a series that's going to serve as a primer for people entering the Second Amendment debate who want to understand the different arguments that they see from different parties, different people, gun control activists, gun rights activists, Second Amendment advocates. Who are these people? What does this mean? What are they arguing for? What are the merits of those arguments? That's what this series is about, which means I can't possibly cover everything in one video. So this is a series, which means that there's going to be several smaller videos exploring particular arguments, particularly important things that I find that are pertinent to the debate itself. Now, this is going to partner fairly well with my argumentation series. That's a more apolitical series where I just talk about argumentation and debates, how to write good arguments, and also how to be persuasive with the truth once you have it. What are the elements of persuasion that you need to know? So that's a series that's currently in development. I'll link it up here, wherever my finger can point. And without further ado, we will get into the different types of content that we're going to cover and a little bit on why we're covering. So the first type of content that we're covering is the ethical argument. And there's several different types of ethical arguments.
And he put these into chapters, the YouTube thing.
Naturally, we're discussing what we should do with guns or what we should do in regards to the Second Amendment. And anytime someone says, what should you do? That's a time for your ears to perk up and hear an ethical question. So one of the most common ethical arguments that you'll see is a categorical syllogism. It goes something like this. If legislation saves lives, then that legislation is good. Gun control legislation saves lives. Gun control legislation is good. So that conclusion follows from that categorical syllogism. Of course, you might see this argument flipped. If legislation saves lives, then that legislation is good. Gun rights legislation saves lives. Therefore, gun rights legislation is good. So you can see that consequentialist argument that's focused on the effects of the legislation can be leveraged for or against gun rights or Second Amendment rights or against gun control. Now, there are other ethical arguments that might come into play. So you might believe on principle some things are wrong or that some actions are always wrong. An argument from that type of place may look something like this. Premise one, if restricting constitutional rights is evil, then restriction of the Second Amendment is evil. Premise two, restricting constitutional rights is evil. Conclusion, therefore, restriction of Second Amendment rights is evil. Now, are any of these arguments I just said open and shut cases where there's absolutely no debate, no room for discussion? They might have sounded really intuitive, but surprising to a lot of people, these types of arguments are highly debatable, meaning that there is a lot of nuance, a lot of back and forth, a lot of refinement that can be done. And none of those arguments are really ready to enter any kind of academic or peer-reviewed sense or world. So we need to keep that in mind. And we're going to be exploring these arguments in more detail as part of this series. So the next part of this series is going to be focusing on emotional arguments around guns, firearms, the Second Amendment. And my God, are there a lot of these. There's some very big cues that you're about to hear an emotional argument. These are typically rooted in identity or some deep-seated passion, right, or feeling. And that's for good reason. So the cues that you're going to hear these are like this. Think of the children as a survivor of gun violence, as a gun owner. These types of arguments are trying to get you to see from someone else's perspective and to feel what they feel. And those feelings convey a lot of information. While those arguments may not always be formulated in a logical, syllogistic, academic kind of format, these arguments still have value and weight and are still very persuasive. When we put ourselves in someone else's shoes, when we can sympathize, empathize, or even just when we think about things that we value and how they're impacted by things, that is something that needs to be addressed, all these emotional arguments. So we will get into those in more detail. That's part 2 of this series. Now let's get into part 3, which is going to be more around the legal arguments for and against gun control or for and against the Second Amendment. And while I am not a lawyer, I am a little bit of a legal scholar. I'd like to think of myself as one. And one of the things that we'll get into is just that, the philosophy of law, the common law rulings, the laws that are currently on the books, how certain things are looked at, all that type of stuff. And there's a whole list of topics here. I made a bullet point list I'm just going to read now. Red flag laws or gun violence restraining orders, or GVROs, magazine capacity restrictions, assault weapon laws, carry rights and restrictions, stand your ground versus duty to retreat laws, firearm category restrictions, background checks, grandfathering practices, homemade guns or ghost guns, safe storage laws, age restrictions for firearms possession, SCOTUS rulings, CDC and research practices for gun violence, and the list can go on quite a bit. There are a lot of different policy topics around guns, and they can formulate how we should think or view these things in a legal light. And oftentimes, more often than not, we're not just talking about if guns are good, but which gun policies or which Second Amendment policies or whatever, or self-defense policies even, are good. So there's just so much room to talk about topics there. I'm going to be exploring that as well. And finally, language arguments are going to be the last major component of this series. So These arguments are going to be talking about how language is used, what language is used, why it's used, and we want to be able to explore that. There's a lot of loaded language here, and that doesn't mean that it's misleading necessarily. It doesn't mean anything like that. What it means when I say loaded language is just that it's emotionally preloaded. When someone says assault weapon or someone says modern sporting rifle, those two things have vastly different connotations. And those two different things, depending on the context in which they're used, could have a series of ramifications on the debate. Other examples might be if we approach violence versus gun violence as part of the debate. Those two topics can have vastly different implications and vastly different contexts within the discussion that we need to explore fully. There's a number of issues here. Well-regulated militia, what does that mean? What does the Second Amendment even mean exactly? And there's a lot of debate here on these topics, which we should use, which we should think. And we need to explore that, and we need to see what's good and bad and, and make our own decisions. So that is going to be a big part of this. Now, of course, there are many other possible kind of categories to discuss. There's some that I'm leaving out for brevity. There's arguments on the meta of this debate. So how do we even debate? There's arguments on praxis here that we could get into that I'm not, as in how do we practically apply our ideology or our outcome coming from this subject matter for the Second Amendment. There's a whole bunch of arguments I'm not even going to touch because we could be here for years. And frankly, there's tons of channels talking about that right now. We will discuss them just later. So that's that. Those are our subjects. If you like this video, please share it with your friends so that they know.
Blah, blah, blah. And then he just talks about how to support him and make it easier for him to do this kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, so that's Walt's video. We'll link to it. Well, we already linked it in the description. But that guy is called Walt, and he's a pretty cool dude. I met him at the Second Amendment Foundation, did some hidden, what was that thing called? Oh, crap. What is that called? Zoom? Hidden Zoom meetings earlier this year. And Walt was in there, and I invited him to jump into these chats, and he's been doing this kind of video on his channel now for a while. He's basically Smeggy, except that he's around and he's not melting. Anyway, so yeah, you guys are chatting over here, gossiping about how it's going to be so good or whatever. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I look forward to all of it because that's the thing that you, me, and Smeggy have been talking out forever. Smeggy definitely before I came along, but we tried to kind of get this, but he's much better at it than.
Yeah, how ironic is it that this dude jumped in? Or maybe at least he jumped in the text chat out there, right? So let me ask this. I typed I tried to put them out here that got mixed up because they're out here chatting out there. But he arranged or divided it into ethical arguments, emotional arguments, legal arguments, language arguments. Is that, I mean, we never accomplished that. I think we had attempted to even come up with that, right? Like some way to organize them so that we could get started. Did we even get to that point?
All we ever did is we did ethos, pathos, and logos, and what the difference of those three arguments are, which is a very basic. He's talking about further when he's talking about syllogisms and things like that. He's talking about a much deeper and richer thing than we were ever doing.
But the things you just said are types of arguments, but these are like flavors of argument. Does that make sense? So you would use those types of arguments on all of these different flavors. Or they're like your cuisine, and then you got your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you got your Italian food, you got your Chinese food, you got your Mexican food, right? So there's that's the difference, right? Like we were talking about, hey, how are we going to talk about breakfast, lunch, and dinner separately instead of just talking about food? And Walt's over here running circles around us like if we were old geezers on MySpace or whatever, chatting somehow with emails, I guess, with MySpace. Anyway, running around like figuring out how to set up a buffet for some woke new generation of gun owners. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty interesting. Now, are we just amazed because some kid threw 4 things down? Are we being flim-flammed here? Is this a giant flim-flam? We know he's a lawyer. Is this double talk? Is this just some simple way? Or is this legit 4 good angles of attack here?
It's legit. Absolutely. And what your analogy with the dinner table is a good one. That will translate out to a majority of the audience who is at a minimum interested, and elevating the degree, and trying to reach, you can't reach perfection really, but trying to strive higher than the base discussion is going to be great for those of us who are intently interested, not passively or non-participation kind of interest. So Woods, your impressions, what's going in your head?
I'm looking forward to the biggest piece is I catch people in that first piece that you talked about, those syllogisms, people talking that all the time. Like if A is true, then B is true, therefore C is true.
Yeah, like I'm calling it false dichotomy or false something. Is that the false? Is it false dichotomy? Is that the right word?
Yeah, false dichotomy is another way to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because they like come up with this like, and I do it all the time also, especially in a chat, and I'll defend it. Like that's the only way to get the point across when you're trying to be fast in front of people or in a text chat or something. But still, it doesn't. You can't. It's only quickly. It's only a sketch, right? But yeah, saying like this or that, and if you don't pick one or the other, then F you, you're a jerk. Right?
It's if-then statements for the most part, at least as an introduction to developing the argument. Yeah.
And then look forward to the loaded language piece. Like I know a bunch of times I've seen UG where somebody says shooter in a chat, and you always stop them and say murderer, and it's something I've learned from you because I've done that hundreds of times to people when they were just talking to me in real life.
Yeah.
And stop them. Wait a minute, that's different. I'm a shooter. Yeah, that's a murderer.
Yeah, and I've been using G's, I can't remember how long ago it was, but G's concept there with almost everywhere else I go on the internet where there's the opportunity for me to offer that kind of correction to people's perception.
Here's the deal. I steal that from Alan Corwin, who I don't like that much, but that's one of the reasons I respect him is he came up with that a long time ago, and he'll be the dude to stop people at Gun Rights Policy Conference in the middle of a conversation. That's totally where I get that from. So just FYI, he has more cred than me. So if you're going to credit somebody, credit the dude who I got it from. He might have stole it from somebody, but I doubt it. He's kind of
you're an example of if you see further than the rest of us, it's because you're sometimes standing on the shoulder of giants because you know all those cats.
Yeah.
You've been around
for the next one. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and Woods, I don't think he's so much standing on the shoulders of giants as it is, like almost jailbreaking the development beyond what what others concepts are. And I feel, and I just gave an example. I am standing on the shoulder of a giant. G helped me to reformulate my approach, and now that it is a genuine feeling, offering that gentle correction again is allowing me to spread that kind of word, the concept, the desire. And though I've only had one person respond and say, I never thought of it this way, I think that every opportunity we have, we should get that transfer to someone who's to another, so that we can influence their perspective. And I think that the mal perspective of most, when it comes to firearms, when it comes to the Constitution, when it comes to guns in our culture, they need to be corrected. Now, I'll close with this, and then I'll shut up for everybody else. If you do a correction, I've used the word gentle. People don't want to be interrupted and corrected immediately. But that kind of stop is what will really shake up someone's cognition of the development of their understanding.
Yeah,
and I'm out.
Aware of that. Yeah, be aware of that, but I wouldn't even go so far as even try to correct or offer correction. F all that. Just example, just do the stuff. And people, it's obvious when you say the Sandy Hook murderer who chose a firearm for political reasons because he knew it'd be infamous because the media does that. Right, like if you do that instead of just saying the same old thing, that's all you got to do. And then people pick that up, right? One of the reasons I don't like Alan is because he stops everybody and gives you a big lecture about how you're supposed to always do it and all that. And it's like, yeah, okay, you can, but it's also inappropriate sometimes, and it's maybe anti to the conversation other times. You know what I mean? We do it when it's appropriate, but that's all I'm going to add. Like add that caveat to it.
Yeah, whether to do that or not is really nuanced, depending on how well you know the people you're talking to and what the conversation isn't exactly.
Yeah.
The other one,
because I usually do it rudely because I don't give a shit. Like I'm not trying to grow and I'm not trying to impress nobody, right? I ain't trying to make friends. I'm just trying to get people, like you just said, everything you just said. But it doesn't work. Like you don't grow and you don't get friends. Like people don't like it. It interrupts things. It stops their train of thought. And if you stop somebody's train of thought in the middle of a live thing, it's just, you can't do that too many times before they don't want to hang out with you because you interrupt their train of thought in the middle of live stuff and they might feel like that's not appropriate or they can't catch up. Everybody's got a different, opinion of what these things are all about, how much significance they are and that kind of thing, especially if you're in somebody else's chat. Like if you're in their realm, obviously everybody's got their own.
Yeah, I'd like to give Schmeggy a shout out for something I 100% stole directly from him. Is that when people talked about a lot of Second Amendment, I keep reminding him I like all the amendments. They're all interrelated, and that was the cat that really brought that to the forefront, just in some kind of chat back in the day.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that doesn't get used enough either when we're just having conversations with people around the holidays, like, oh, this is cousin so-and-so, or this is uncle so-and-so, or this is my brother, the gun guy, right? Whoever, the uncle so-and-so, the gun guy, or blah, 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 the gun, like, okay, I like, that's where you can parry that as appropriate, to the person or whatever. But yeah, like, I'm into rights. Like, guns just are.
Guns are just one of the many rights that I believe in.
But I don't know how often that even comes up. I mean, that would be, I doubt with family. I guess it depends if it's your brother-in-law or something, or your sister or something. That's different than old aunt so-and-so or young, what would that be? Your nephew or niece so-and-so. Yeah.
Well, it also depends on your family. The Woods family apparently are a bunch of loud people that like to argue about stuff. So we'll go at it for sure.
Well, and as soon as I said that, I can't imagine. No one's ever introduced me as like, this is so-and-so, the gun guy. Like that just doesn't come. And I'm pretty much like guns and stuff. It's just that, like that never comes up.
Yeah.
Or like, this is so-and-so from Arizona or something like that.
Yeah. Or like, I work with him. This is my friend.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, so, yeah, that was Walt's video. We watched that a little bit. Well, actually, we watched the whole damn thing except for the end where he was trying to promote his own stuff. But, yeah, I think that was pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to it for sure. Hopefully they're going to be longer than 8 minutes. I don't want them to be an hour either. It would be neat if he did like I don't know, let's say a reasonable amount, 5 to 7 to 10 minutes at the most, but then followed up with some sort of a live thing. That would be interesting. Have you guys watched Walt's live stuff at all? Or his premieres even?
There was one the other day that I wasn't sure with you that I thought it was live, but he was actually watching a broadcast of something he had done in another time.
Well, and that was odd because he basically recorded the screen and then he told everybody on his Discord, which Discord is basically a hidden version of what Gun Channels was, really, except that it's all hidden. You have to have passwords to get in everywhere. But once you're in there, it's just like Gun Channels was. There was places to do stuff and there's this live chat. So I think in the live chat of Discord, he said, hey, ask me questions and I'm going to answer them in a video. And then everyone knew what that meant. So they just started asking questions. And then he started doing a screen capture, like a screen capture of his own computer, and just started answering the questions as they showed up in Discord. So while the people, and there is a part of Discord where you can share your screen and you can talk. And he may have been talking, so they heard him, and he may have been sharing his screen, but I don't think so because I think he said that he was not live. But anyway, they knew that he was doing this video, so they were feeding him the questions like on the spot, let's say live. But because it was recorded, it really wasn't live, right? But it was happening in real time. So then he took that screen capture and posted that as a video on YouTube, but then he set it as a premiere. So now it's treated as if it's a live show on YouTube. So now it's sort of like Inception. And that's how the kids are going to do things. We got to get used to it. They're not going to just do things in a normal time stream. They're going to fuck shit up and try to do some fast forward, backwards, moonwalk fucking version of live chat. That's fine. we'll keep
don't
up.
get me wrong, I liked it. I watched the whole thing, but I remember that you were in the chat saying, "Is this live?" And I had the same question, so you weren't alone.
It took me like 14 questions before I figured it all out. But I think that's how it ended up working out. But yeah, so what he was doing though is getting questions from a live stream of people, and his stream of people are different than anybody we talk to, for damn sure. Different age, different everything, literally everything. So the questions are different, and I value that. I was just going to bitch about something else if we get a chance. I'll bitch about something else that I don't like. But on Walt stuff, I do like that his stuff is fresh and different. So when he's answering those questions, he's answering them in the video, I guess. But then we're also what would you call that? Like on another level or at like a different elevation. We're sitting here asking and answering questions while he's there live watching the premiere. So it was really neat and fun. What the questions were mostly like new to guns questions, right? Or new to CCW, remember?
Well, a lot of those people in that, because I'm part of that Discord, I just never joined all the way. You have to like pick a team. You're like, you know how he knows like 40 different versions of different philosophical arguments and what their names are, and I don't remember any of them now. Like, okay. You know what I'm talking about?
Uh-huh. Who's stepping on a cat over there? What's happening?
The cat that's literally on the where the track for the garage door goes. He's walking around on that because he's that guy.
I feel like I'm on Gizzard Show.
Oh, this cat would kick Gizzard's cat's ass. This cat's evil.
What about Rick, giant ass cats? He's got bobcats or some shit.
This cat would fight a bear. He don't care. He ain't afraid of nothing.
There's not one.
Because I'm old.
We were talking about Walt's stream and the kids on there, and you were watching the chat.
In the Discord, they pick different, like, there's people that are super Republican and then neoconservatives and then this other group, and they have arguments amongst themselves over a bunch of topics. So he's got tons of friends that are in that aren't at all gun people, are very left and very right and middle and whatever, which is a really cool way to get the word out. If they're all listening to Walt, then they're going to listen to and learn some stuff.
Yeah, seriously. And I just, like I say, I really like that there's different people interested in different ways, right? Because it's been kind of an 8-track, just going around in freaking circles for a long time. So, anyway, I was asking if you guys had seen any of his live stuff because of that his audience, I guess, the people that show up, it's really not an audience. It's the people he hangs out with and chats with all the damn time. I don't know if it's friends of his from school or the malt shop.
I suspect it's kids from people that he knows from school.
Yeah, like maybe the kids that are on the bus.
They're also very good at making really solid arguments. So it's all his like super psychology friends.
They probably all take the bus together, I imagine, like on the way to school. Like as the last one gets picked up, they start some kind of philosophical discussion. And in California, the school bus driver's probably in on it, and he's like the wise old school bus driver, and he'll give them some sort of ethical.
Well, the bus driver tell him the topic today is Aristotle. Go.
Yeah, exactly. Or he'll have some sort of crazy dice or some sort of weird novel from some country, and they'll pick some facet of it. Yeah, exactly. So that's probably what's happening over there. But yeah, so I like watching his comments because then he, they just keep chatting around and I don't know what to call it. Like they just do it at a different angle than everybody else has been looking at this stuff. And what I like about it is it's the whole thing about what me and Smeggy were trying to do back in the days before these guys were born, where we were like, well, how do you go that 51%? Once we got the concept down from watching gun rights policy, people suggest that you're not having a conversation with someone if you just go to the 50% line, if you just go halfway and yell at them and yell your opinion really loud. Or make it very clear what your opinion is. All you've done is said what your opinion is very clearly or loud. Like you haven't gone over and understood their position at all. How would you ever expect them to change their minds and go to your side at all if you're not willing to understand? And if you can't have an effective conversation with someone if you don't understand their position, their perspective on it. And half the time just stating that you understand their position is enough for them to understand that you also have a position and maybe they should figure out yours. And that's where game happens, right? That's not even compromise. That's just like learning how to be effective with strategy, right? Like not wasting everybody's time. And every time you walk up and just yell your position at someone and are ineffective, you've just solidified the fact that there's no gains to be made. But every time you chip away and you create some opportunities, everybody walks away with a possibility for the next conversation, right? So that's what we were trying to figure out, and that's what I'm digging here, is that we're getting some substance on those. Well, basically the sketch that we came up with, except like you said, we didn't know who to ask or how to get it beyond that.
Can you look at the stuff that Schmeggy wrote in the chat? Because I like that magazine clip argument that I see everybody doing all the time. It's exactly what you said. Like, we hear somebody say clip, I just keep saying magazine, but I don't correct them. I've got tons of friends that do it all the time.
Yeah.
That are from the 80s. They learned it was a clip in the 80s. They're wrong, but is it really worth, I think I'm going to do more changing their attitude when I never call it that. And then over time, they're going to learn the right word, as opposed to stop them and say, hey, this is wrong.
Yeah. And sometimes in my experience, they want to know the difference. Like, what did you just say? What did you call it? Oh, what does that mean? And then you can explain that, and then draw parallels and introduce a greater discussion. And just a second here, the discussion, particularly the way we're observing him, is that they're coming from the legal and philosophical first, and then legal, because we use philosophy in analyzing the political and the social and the cultural. So it's just like somebody from another organization or club or clique or whatever, and it appeals to me.
Yeah, for sure. And
Walt does one other thing that's really, really great, is that I've seen him talk about it before, and I don't want to put words in his mouth like I did the other day, but the other person that you're talking to, or has a different perspective, and then it has value too. Because like G was saying before, you're only gonna learn when you talk to people that are outside your comfort zone.
Well, you only change anything. You won't change anything. They're stating their opinion over and over and over again, right?
Right. And try not to make judgments about the other people.
Well, I mean, whatever, make judgments. Just don't be an idiot and be forced to act on some predestined decision based on that opinion, right? You make all the opinions you want, but be practical about it. You can have all the opinions you want. You still play chess with the person like a person playing chess, right? Like, right. I don't like you. I think your pants are stupid. I'm still going to play chess with you the same way I play chess with somebody whose pants I like, right? Maybe you guys don't. Maybe I'm playing chess all wrong here. Maybe that's something that I've been doing.
Well, as long as you're wearing pants, I'm going to draw the line. If you're not wearing pants, then I don't want to play chess with you.
Like if somebody's wearing green pants, I play the same game of chess as if they're wearing like a brown pair. Logical fallacies. Yeah, I took a class on logic and I dug it. I couldn't figure out what to do with it, so I just every once in a while, like that, I don't even use it for nothing. Every once in a while, I think about it, but
some of those syllogisms are that, because their base premise isn't like, if they're saying A, then if A is actually flawed, then B and C are flawed as well.
But I mean, yeah, I hear you, and that's what I always found was interesting. It's just that try applying that, like try to bring that into conversation. You either look like some kind of blah, 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 and then people tune you out, or they just disagree. And it's like, dang it, I'm right, fucker. Like, you can't just disagree with like actual logic, you fucker. There might, I don't know, I haven't gotten into it enough. There's probably things where two logics aren't the same, but still apply. I don't know, maybe, but for the most part, if you're right with your logic, then what the fuck? Like, they can disagree all they want, but it's still logic.
Yeah, and an academic analogy for one of the classes that I had, lost my train of thought.
So let's go back to the magazine clip thing. When I think it's important to know the difference, and you sound like a jerk if you tell people the difference. And I learned that a long time ago from just everything. When you know something that's whatever accurate about something, mostly gun stuff, terminology or whatever. And then whatever. So I started doing the videos, and I would clear and make sure that I didn't say clip ever, right? And in the same kind of thing, when people would say something in a comment, blah, 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 the clip, I'd say blah, 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 the magazine, without saying you should say magazine. I just responded with magazine or whatever. And I mean, for the most part, nobody gave a shit one way or the other. Like, it was never an issue. After a while, you know, I've been doing this for a while. So after a while, you do stuff and then other people come along, and then there's some nuance to it. Then people are paying attention to what happened before. And so in one of those first evolutions of people paying attention to stuff is when I first started getting acknowledged, like, oh, you're the channel that like cleared every gun all the time, without making it a big point, because I never said it. I just did it. I did it in front of the camera. I always do, because a new gun owner should know that every gun is safety checked, right? You just do it. And the people that run around acting like they don't are just whatever. I don't care, but they're dumb, right? So, you know, I just did it, and I didn't say anybody had to or nothing, and I didn't like take guns away from people and do it or nothing. It's just that I always did it. So because other people didn't, or other people did it weird or awkward or something, I did get comments on it occasionally, and it was almost always positive. And then maybe a couple of times over my whole experience on this whole thing is I've had people like go, oh, you're the guy that does all that, and that's a waste of time, or, you know, trying to act like they're too cool for school, like they wouldn't waste their time doing it. But like 3 people, maybe all this whole time, maybe that had the balls to say it to me, but you know what I mean? Like, probably other people thought it, I'm sure, but more than a couple of people over the years were like, oh, okay, that's, you know, that was noticeable, and it was, you know, they appreciated it. So that's about what I would do, is just do it in front of people. And if, I guess, like I say, every once in a while, you'll get somebody that's like adamant, well, I don't think it matters. You should be able to say whatever you want. I'm like, seriously? Like, what, you just, those are probably people just looking for a fight. Like, they're going to fight you about whatever. So then we got cartridge and bullet. Same thing. It's, you know, I'm not going to stop somebody in the middle of a conversation necessarily, unless you're trying to start a fight. But don't want to be inaccurate. I don't see any point in being inaccurate.
I remember my train of thought. Actually, it still applies to this point in the conversation. The class that was I'm referring to was literary criticism, and what that did, and at that time, which was in the early 90s, there are like more than a dozen, up to maybe 18, and these are schools of thought. So there's the parallel to philosophy, and what it gives you is different perspectives that will promote the development of a potential paradigm shift, and that can happen on both sides of the discussion. And it's a shift that will benefit both, because it will promote the expansion of understanding of both parties. The thing I think that people get rutted into and so fucking frustrated by is they expect a sea change. They expect to just waltz this information in and eradicate anybody's misunderstanding, strong perspective. Sea change will happen after it's being perpetuated by the second generation, the third generation, the fourth generation experiences. And though we are not the first, I fail to be able to analyze what generation we are right now. So yeah,
I got an example of that. Now, barbecue, of course, is on break. He's out smoking or whatever, so he's not even old enough. But I think the rest of us are old enough to remember. And John Brown's out there. He's old enough. Smeggy's probably old enough. And is there anybody else out there tonight? It's just us. Oh, Lockjaw's out there. So I don't know how old he is. Angelina's a little kid. She doesn't know nothing. And that's it. Oh, Patriot's out there. He's pretty old. So I can remember back in the day, and this wasn't that long ago. This was in the days of the 18. This is in the days of Rambo, real Rambo, First Blood. This is the days of all the good movies, 1984 and pre, right? You have 1911 being the ultimate gun on the planet. And then bullshit crap starts to happen, stupid movies and communist propaganda and stupid Berettas start showing up all over the place. And then the Glock happens, and then it's everywhere. 9mm hitting the shelves. And can you remember back in the 80s? Were you shooting? Like, if you would have put a 9mm in front of your grandpa, he would have looked at you like you put down some kind of weird, like, I don't know what the hell thing to offend him, like a piece of poop on a sandwich or something, right? Like, what the hell is this 9mm? I don't hate 9mm because I got nothing else to do. It's because I grew up as an honest American with real calibers hating 9mm, like everybody should. And then, I don't know, maybe somewhere in the 90s, probably, everybody was like, oh, all right, you can put more bullets in there and it's interesting and whatever. Nobody was reloading because you get them for nothing. They were giving them to you because they needed people to get addicted to them. They just gave them to you, the bullets. So you'd buy a gun or two and then, okay, you can put a lot of bullets in it, but it takes like 20 of them to knock a bowling pin over. So whatever, it's a nice gun. And then, you know, oh, it's ambidextrous. So that's interesting because that was a new thing for a minute or two. Anyway, it took a while and then it gets to be CCW everywhere. And then all these new people jump on and they're unexperienced. They're taken advantage of as newbies, and boom, they start getting sold the 9mm. And now it's commonplace. So I can remember that being something that was scorned and looked down on. And then it was kind of gradually accepted. And now it's like everybody acts like it's the thing, like it's the norm. And now everybody champions it, actually.
Yeah, my late teens, early 20s, nobody had 9mm.
Huh,
We went 100% down. We were like, what?
it exists. I mean, it was a novelty caliber, like having a Makarov today or something.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, you shot a 9mm, neat. Okay, let's go back to shooting real calibers, 38 and 45, like you're supposed to.
Right. I was always the 38 kid. Still carry a 38. Just old. Works good.
Yeah, and that was a really good like timeline, just crunched into just a small amount of space. Because I wasn't a shooter. I wasn't an act. I wasn't a. I didn't shoot a lot in the late 80s or early 90s. So I came in tardy to the party. So I really appreciate that, G. That's, you know, now I understand. I've just been enlightened. Thank you.
Yeah, back in the olden days in the 80s, you'd sit around reading a book, like Gun Digest or one of them books that's the size of a catalog or a Bible or a telephone book or whatever. And you'd sit around reading them books, and then you'd go to a gun shop and you'd say stuff and they'd talk to you or whatever. And then you'd go to a gun show and then you could talk to other people who had different opinions about shit. And then you'd go back to your gun shop and talk to them. And then maybe you had more than one gun shop, so you could get 3 or 4 opinions. So at the max, you had 12 opinions in your life and then yours. And then maybe you went to the range and talked to 6 more people. Yeah, that was the whole world back then. So, and that was if you were a talkative person. I guess if you were a competition shooter or hunter, maybe you'd talk to more people. But then there's a shit ton of people that talk to nobody, right? So I'm guessing an average was like 12 people if you were, you know, talk to anybody when you were at the range or whatever, social at all, or, you know, talked a little bit when you were buying something. But, you know, it was just a different world. And back then, there wasn't, like I say, 9mm was there. Every caliber was there. There was like Wildcats and stuff. There was, you know, it wasn't like, oh, there's just 45 and everybody cares about hunt or self-defense. That wasn't even a thing. There was no such thing as self-defense in the 80s. You went to the store and you were buying hunting rounds or range rounds, period. Or like shit hits the fan, because that was a thing. It was called survivalist back then. So you could buy like, you know, World War II ammo basically was Cold War ammo was nothing. It would just give it to you because it was laying around everywhere, piles of it. And then hunting ammo or competition ammo or range ammo, just cheap ammo to shoot at the range. But there was no such thing as self-defense ammo. Nobody could carry.
Well, legally.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Everyone carried. But everyone carried because it was a misdemeanor to get caught carrying, and they didn't catch anybody because nobody did anything. It's just like today.
Yep.
You know, It was like if they said, "Oh, it's illegal to carry your car keys," people would be like, "All right, well,
Yeah.
still carry their car keys." So that's what it was like for basically every
Right.
up until the 80s when they said, "Oh, you know what? Why don't we just make it a law and just get a permit?" Like, hey, why don't we just charge people and make it like impossible for some people to deal with taking 8 hours. At first, it was 16 hours. Most states, it was 16 hours CCW classes. But
We
anyway,
never-
I was talking about just the evolution of that stupid 9mm caliber. So back when we could only read books and you only had so many people, you didn't just go experiment and buy. I knew a lot of people. I knew a lot of gun people. I was really into guns, and they weren't all the same or nothing, but people didn't just like go crazy buying. Well, I guess some people must have, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't just decide, oh, I'm going to buy fucking 9mm by the shit ton. It was just not. It was just eight. It was one of the more, I wouldn't say rare. I don't know. It definitely wasn't a common caliber like this. But I guess I'm trying to recollect from when I was a little kid, and that's definitely tainted with what we shot. But we owned others. I think we had a high power. So, I mean, we did have a 9, but there was just no reason to shoot it. Maybe it was super expensive to shoot it.
That makes sense. Because 9 was a cheap one back in the day.
My dad also liked World War II guns. So, like, if he was going to shoot, he was shooting World War II guns or like Revolutionary War stupid ass black powder crap. So, I didn't really pay attention to what he was shooting too much, but he definitely wasn't shooting any 9s ever, and I didn't feel like it. No, but anyway, I was trying to explain that concept of like, things will, I don't know how DJ was saying, like things will kind of evolve or change, and there's
Right.
a progression or whatever.
Things we don't believe now, we're going to believe eventually. Like, we wouldn't have thought 9mm was going to be a thing. We can't see it.
But I mean, things are going to change again. I mean, there's eventually going to be some other kind of bullet. We're going to have ceramic or porcelain or some sort of spun, I don't know, carbon thing. Or, something's going to change. They'll put a little bit of magnetism, something, iron filings in a ceramic thing that has no friction and no wear on the barrel, and the barrel can, have just enough. Because it'll be lighter or something, the barrel can have just enough magnetism to wing it really fast or something, and you can just tune it to be either, distance or speed or some shit. And then, we'll have
magnet, no gunpowder at all.
But I'm sure we'll have something. I was just thinking, there's so many different ways that if we really put our mind to it, if there was no lead tomorrow, would we stop shooting? No, we would just all switch to some kind of BB gun or some kind of crazy airsoft or something. Like if we, not a law, because I don't want to doom that on us, but we just shot all the lead up into the air. Let's say we made all the lead into like 16 magazines of 45 ACP. That's how much it would take to make 16 full magazines of 45, all of the lead. And then nobody shot that lead, because that's what happens is the 45 ACP people are gracious and they keep shooting the lead into the berms. You shoot one round at 45 ACP into a berm, they can make like 2 years worth of 9mm out of that. So it's one of the reasons. It's just the 45 ACP people quit shooting. So that's why there's shortages right now. Anyway.
This dialogue is so fun, guys. I love it.
All right, so what's Pink saying here? Still got my books from the 80s and 90s. Most common theme that caught my eye was the AMT hardballer alongside 1911s, 10mm, and the introduction of the 50 AE and the Desert Eagle.
Oh, yeah.
50 AE. I can remember all the Delta Elites. That was the shit. But once I had other things going on, I wasn't paying attention to the magazines. But yeah, once I was old enough to realize that I could spend money on getting the magazines to my mailbox instead of having to try to find the cool ones like SWAT. Like trying to find SWAT in the olden days was impossible. There was like this one, it was a convenience store that had like if a normal convenience store had this many magazines, like this one had 3 times that many, right? Like it had just more magazines. They were trying to be a newsstand. And it was working. Like a lot of people went there for these crazy different magazines. Get a lot of rock magazines and like music magazines there too. I don't remember if there was comics. Actually, I think there might have been some comics after a while. But anyway, that's where I would go get SWATs every once in a while. But you'd get like 5, let's say. And then, if I got there too late in the week or whenever they came out, I was a kid. I had to run over there half the time. I wouldn't get it. So whenever I figured out you could get it, I think I got a couple of 3 magazine subscriptions. And then whenever those ran out, I was old enough that, I was spending my money on other things. But way before the internet. So I think whenever the Delta Elites came out is when all the magazine subscriptions ran out. But man, I can remember when they were first like, you can paint a gun a different color. I can remember that magazine from whatever it was, Gun something, and going, holy crap, mind blown. You can paint a gun a different color. What? Like paint works on a gun and nobody's going to arrest you for that? Like, holy shit. Because painted a gun green or something, like an M1 carbine.
Yeah, I painted a couple of those. Like my first guns that weren't like my hunting guns that my dad gave me were all like Rossi kind of level or RGs or what they would kind of call junk guns now. I just call them affordable freedom.
In that same time period that you're referring to,
a couple of those because they were pretty rusty.
Buying them new or buying them used?
Used.
Yeah, same here.
We didn't really have a lot of gun stores in my neighborhood. We had a lot of pawn shops that had guns.
Oh, well, whenever I got my first one, a name brand one, and then after that, I figured out that you could buy guns in the newspaper. Back in the day, you could just go to classifieds and they'd be like, I'm selling a gun. You're like, oh, shit. Come on over. And then half the time, they'd be like, yeah, I'm selling this gun. Oh, you got any other guns you're selling? Yeah, I'm selling this gun and this gun and this gun. Oh, shit. All right.
Yeah, I wish I knew.
There were a couple occasions where I had gotten picked up something from somebody else, and when I was at one point, I was having like a yard sale 2 or 3 times a month, and people would just roll by, and I would have like a shotgun. Say it was clear what it was, and they were people would be like, oh wow, it is the same kind of thing you're referring to. We could do this or some shit. And yeah, I remember doing that 2 years or so, and I just pick up something kind of like people do reviews and then just do returns, except I was making a purchase instead of having it donated, and I just pass it along, particularly if I didn't like it. And all those magazines you're talking about during that time period, I was music and motorcycles and cars, and the explosion from the kind of the old hat publications like Car and Driver or Cycle News. Suddenly I could subscribe to like 20 goddamn magazines, and I did. I had so much shit that I could never keep up.
Yeah, I went from my first was when I was a little kid. Somebody got me a subscription to some Corvette magazine because I was insane for Corvettes in the 70s until 80s. I really liked them, and until that 80s pace car silver and black one, I didn't like that one anymore. Looked too much like Knight Rider. But and I also liked the Trans Ams back in whatever that movie was days. So I had a Corvette magazine, and I dug that. And then it went to, for me, it was mini trucks, and then a little bit of 4x4 trucks after I started hanging out in the West. But then it just went to Chevy muscle car magazines because we had a bunch of cars that we were rebuilding. So we would just Google, I guess, but I didn't Google nothing back then. Google over the, I could get polyurethane bushings instead of my rubber bushings, or I could get a tiny bit oversized valve instead of this other valve, or I could get a wire that's made out of some other metal instead of this metal, that kind of crap. And then I quit buying car magazines.
I had a friend of mine back in the day. He put chrome bolts on the inside of the fenders on his truck. And I said, Jimmy, why would you do that? He's like, I know they're chrome. Like those guys.
Talk to Pink, dude. He knows what it's all about. But he's got, they would go out and win, go out and compete and win car shows and stuff. I get it. I understand having a fancy one. And we really enjoyed the shit out of rebuilding his Camaro. And I would build my, whenever I had a couple extra bucks or whatever, I would throw, an upgrade to some part of my El Camino.
When I was in high school, I worked at a gas station almost the whole high school from 3 to 11. You know, I had worked full time the whole time I was in school. And those guys would come and just take all kinds of cars apart after shift.
Oh, interesting. I was going to say, I knew a guy, one of our friends.
They stuck I want to say a Chevy 400 into a little Chevy 11. They broke it about 2 days later. Busted it all.
I like love. I wish I would have got a love.
Well, it was too much for the axle in the back. It was just too much. It just blew it.
Like too much torque, you mean?
Yeah, and they just went and got another one from another one and sold it to somebody. They would just perpetually take cars and like put a new motor in it and then sell it, and you know, just as a side gig for them.
Anyway, so I don't know where that we got off on there. What you were talking?
Car magazine. Where are we at?
What kind of car magazines were you getting? Or you weren't getting car magazines? So
how old were you when you started carrying, G?
I don't really pay attention to how old I am.
Would you remember what year? I guess my only point is like I've been carrying since like 92, maybe 93. And I was I knew they carried. Like I didn't know nobody else permit.
I didn't start carrying for a long time. We weren't doing nothing. I didn't start carrying until we started going hunting in places where we could get killed. And that's where I was like, because every once in a while you'd be like, what's that pack mule team doing? And then it's like, oh, shit, let's get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Not like necessarily the pack mule of drugs is going to hurt you because they just don't want to get, they just want to get their drugs to whatever van they're going to, or not van, trucks do that kind of horrible shit. But it's the raiders that are coming to come up with and kill a lot of people and take those drugs. Those are the ones that you don't want to be anywhere near. So yeah, I would start carrying when we were out hunting and stuff.
Yeah, that's something definitely would never happen up here. Wow.
Yeah. Well, there's, like I say, there's just, it depends on what era and who you talk to or whatever. But yeah, depending on what it was that they're bringing up, you like cocaine and meth, though, the stuff that's, you know,
yeah, those
like a backpack full of that is $1 million instead of $100,000. I don't, you know, whatever, like, but, you know, much more, what's the word, like the extract of money instead of whatever the normal amount of money. Anyway, so yeah, that's back in those days. But it was the late 90s, mid 90s maybe, kind of dependent. But I also didn't need to. I wasn't doing anything like say, but I mean, I guess there was crime in Tucson or whatever, but it wasn't like I knew people that were getting killed or mugged or worse. So you know, it wasn't like a thing I would have, I'm sure, if it would have been. But whenever I got out of the Army, though, I didn't really shoot or nothing for a long time. It was, you know, I had grown up with guns and I was like done with that shit. I was, you know, it's like fishing or something. Like I fished a lot. I didn't fish either. You know, like I'm doing other things now. I go enjoy other things and learn more shit in my life. So I just never really, I mean, I had guns. I've never had a time when I owned less than like a dozen. But like never used them. They were just like in a drawer or whatever.
That is one like not surprising, but just I've been enlightened again. Jesus, you got to carry when you're hunting because there's going to be somebody out there who will shoot your ass. Like I didn't even consider.
There could be, not gonna be.
Right. Well, okay, but like I'm saying, I guess my point is that, you know, here, if I go hunting, I don't need a sidearm. And when you started saying that, I thought you were talking about bears and cougars and moose, you know, an animal, another mammal that would kill you.
That could be something too, I suppose. We did have lot lines. I'm not as scared of critters, so I'm not gonna shoot a critter. I don't have to, but I'm not gonna shoot him then. I'll make peace. I'll Dr. Doolittle that motherfucker. But no, don't be naive, dude. The bikers and the fucking angry Canadians and shit have been doing meth and all different kinds of crazy shit, growing the marijuanas out in the woods and having all kinds of death patrols around it. Like that's been around a long time. Not, you know, maybe not everywhere horribly, but I've been watching some really interesting stuff on the evolution. There's some stuff from police, like on the evolution of the not just the drug war, but how they fight the drug war, and in the explanation of that, like the locations and the types and the like number of drug operations is crazy. But yeah, we got a big country, and the places in the middle of nowhere is where they, the drug big whatever it was, like either the cartels or the triads, depends on who you're talking about, like the biker gangs. They can do whatever the hell they want in the middle of nowhere, and that's the stuff where like, oh, we never heard from that hunter again. Maybe he fell off a cliff. Yeah, maybe it was a cliff.
Those sort of situations are exclusive to my Midwest experience. So yeah, my naivete has only been achieved by not expanding my horizons. So thanks.
There's a lot of people die or never come home from hiking and hunting. It's crazy. Like, nobody ever talks about it, but I don't know why. Maybe because I don't know. People think, oh, well, he's out hunting or hiking, but yeah, the world's not lovable everywhere. But no, I started. Whenever I'm not, within arm's length of something, I like to have a gun around. I mean, that's just, you never know. I mean, what if it's just, I don't know. You never know what's going to happen. Just because you're camping doesn't mean the rest of the world gives a shit that you're camping. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How's it going, fellas?
Good evening.
Doing well.
All right. Well, so this is right at the 1 hour mark, so I'm going to play host. So we haven't done this for a while. We got, I don't remember what order. Guns of Barbecue's on break. He's in here. How do I click on people? Like this? There. Guns of Barbecue is in here. He's just getting paid to hang out in here. DJ's in here participating. Woods is in here in a boat participating. And then we got Will just jumped in. So there's me. How do I get out of this there? Then we had a couple of things on the buffet table over here to start the show. We were talking about today's Tuesday, so we talked 2A. So any 2A topics will be on the table. Otherwise, I watched the Walt do a show about a series intro to a series of videos about the gun control debate and how to think about the debate in a couple of 4 different ways. And then we had the Daily Bullet with the director of External Affairs for the Second Amendment Foundation. He was on the Daily Bullet, which is the Second Amendment Foundation's daily podcast. And they were talking about their project, be a 2A defender, be a 2A hero or something. What is it called? Project 2A hero or something? Or be a 2A defender project or something like that. They've been talking about it on the Daily Bullet. And I remember that this guy, the director of External Affairs, talked about it, I think at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. It was just in the middle of all the other numbness, right? But it got brushed over because of everything else that was going on. And the boring, what do we want to say, like broadcast of it. But the idea is that they're going to offer, I think, either direction, encouragement, resources, or something. And I'm not sure if it's organization or facilitation, because I don't know if that was even clear. I might watch it again just to find out, or have the guy on and try nailing it down. But basically, that was an interesting one, because the Second Amendment Foundation isn't one to just sit around doing the same thing over and over, unless nobody pokes them. But when they get poked, they do different things. They're doing different things right now. So it's pretty interesting watching them develop this. They've also done a lot of things that if it doesn't catch on, you can only lead a horse to water, right? If it doesn't catch on, it doesn't catch on. So I don't know if this will catch on or not, but it's certainly interesting. So I'd recommend that one if you haven't. The next one is Crump had a guy on who runs a company that sells those 80% guns. They were talking about that for an hour. And then
he was the one that wasn't rated, right?
Correct. It was a guy who had nothing to do with any of that. He just happened to be another guy. It turns out the clarification on that whole thing was that the ATF was concerned or following up on the kits, the slide and the internals, so the buy, build, whatever kit. So unless you were selling that particular kit, I guess that's the thing.
Well, that particular company sold one that shot a cop and another that, I mean, they were sold directly to felons. I think that's why.
Oh, I hadn't heard that part, but that would make a lot of sense if they were following up on backtracking or whatever of firearm used in a crime.
Exactly. That there was two that were sold in L.A. County, and one kit shot a cop, and another, I think, shot a kid that was in a park or something like that, and the gun was left at the scene, and it was shot by a 12-year-old. That's what it was. A real young kid shot, built a kit.
Well, that's obviously not, but you got a hold of one that somebody.
Yeah, I mean,
all right, that's cool. I didn't hear about that. I don't know if anybody else wants to talk about that.
Yeah.
The last thing I got is saw a video that was not really that interesting, but it was about warrant officers and where that whole thing comes from, which I never really paid attention to. And it's still not clear.
I watched the Supreme Court of Wisconsin today, with the trials and what all was going on with Trump up there. It was pretty interesting. I mean, there were actually 7 Supreme Court guys. Just interesting the way they were a lot more inquisitive. It was more the Supreme Court were asking the lawyers of both sides questions than.
Hold on. I don't know about the Supreme Court was talking about the elections in Wisconsin.
Yeah. I mean, it went on for quite a while. I mean, I caught it in the middle and just watched it for 2 hours and then dropped off. But I mean, it was pretty interesting. I'm not sure who was getting the hand of who, but you could definitely tell, like, the conservative judges were just kind of hanging out, and then there were 2 wildcat women. 6 of the 7 were women, and there was only 1 man on the Supreme Court up there. And 2 of them were just hell-bent liberals that were just anti-Trump, tooth and nail, biting heads off bats, crazy. And then the other 4 or 5 were just kind of, hanging back. So it was. I don't know how the outcome was going to come at all, but I just didn't know how long it was going to go, and it just went on and on and on. I thought they kept acting like they were going to run out of time, and they never ran out of time. They just kept on going on. But if I knew how long the recording was, and I could have gone, and listened to the first 45 minutes, the last 45 minutes, that would be the way to do it.
Well, so like I said, I just need to throw a post there and throw a break in there to talk about the whatever's written in the description of the show over there. Has anybody else got any other topics though? Got 5 people in here. Lively conversation, perhaps solve a problem or 2. Get rid of the NFA maybe. No pressure. It's Christmas though. A lot of people appreciate it. You get away the NFA. All we gotta do is come up with 4 steps.
I've been reading a lot about the carry policies of different states when it comes to knives. And I think it's related to 2A because it says in 2A, it doesn't say guns.
What prompted it, I guess I should say. Why you've been interested?
I think I read an article on something, it's one of those, you're on the internet and you read something and then you go to something else. And then especially with me, if you quote something, then I got to find out if that article actually said that.
Yeah. As far as edged weapons, I just this week reviewed the metropolitan, the city regulations, and then the state. And I was surprised by this, and I did grow up on the Iowa side, but you could carry any length open. And I was like,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. That knife that you had on Instagram, I carried one of those for the longest time.
Yeah, well, and I only had that for like woodsman purposes or whatever, but I was just kind of shocked by that. Like, seriously? It's okay to carry, a 2-foot long Bowie knife or some shit like that. And the real restrictions come, and I got a question for you guys, come with, folders and stuff like that. Now, obviously, and here's my question to you. You don't conceal carry a knife unless it's a pocket knife. Now that we have clips on pocket clips, does anybody wear those where the clip is to the inside and so the knife is on the outside of the pocket? Because I'm inside pocket, clip on the outside. And if it's over like 3.5 inches, it's illegal. But you can open carry it.
In Nebraska?
Yeah, Nebraska.
Wow. I thought that was just states on the east side of Mississippi. Barbecue doesn't like hearing about knives. It's got a real knife.
You scared barbecue, yeah.
He doesn't like it. So I thought it was just the states east of the Mississippi, but I've lived without laws about knives for longer than I can remember. Like I remember when I was a little kid, there was stupid laws about the knife can only be as big as your hand or something ridiculous. But there's literally people that walk around with swords here because you can do anything you want. The only thing Arizona doesn't like is chacos. Well, actually, they got rid of that law because we made a video harassing them. They got rid of it. So we can have anything. And I thought every state back out here was like that. Well, except for California.
Yeah, California's got that under 1.5 or 2-inch blade, those crazy little blades. I got a charade with a with a automatic out the side automatic, but it's got like a 1-inch blade. It's so funny.
I guess I switched to a Europe knife. The only thing I got from Europe that I like is this Europe knife because they can't have knives over there that have locks on them. So it's not that big. It's kind of medium. I'd call it a medium-sized pocket knife, but it has no lock, and it's a Spyderco. So I can just open it with the loop, the hole on it, and then what's going on here? I can open it with the hole on it and then just close it because there's no lock or anything. So I like that I can just close it with one hand.
Are you not worried about closing on your fingers?
Yeah, because I don't ever do anything. I only open, but it's like just a utility little razor blade thing. I never use it for anything that would ever happen. And I've had it for so long. I mean, I did originally go, like I wonder if that's going to happen, but never has been an issue. So I'm super happy with it. But anyway, that thing is probably legal everywhere, but because it's so little, but it's almost useless for anything, except for utility crap.
Well, I know that your interest in edge weapons includes, like a balisong. And I carried one. That thing had like a 5-inch blade, 6-inch blade. And I was always, after my first mistake of holding the wrong side and clubbing through my pointer finger within 30 minutes of purchasing it, I was most confident about that thing. Easy. Drop the lock off with your pinky and you're open. It was just incredible. Do you ever carry a balisong?
No, hold on. I don't ever call anything weapons. I'm not a cop and never call anything a weapon. And I definitely don't consider knives weapons or anything. I don't fight with knives, and I wouldn't consider fighting with a knife. Unless I was fighting like a bear, maybe I had.
Gee, you're kind of quiet, I think. Maybe it's me.
Am I cutting out?
No, you're not cutting out. Your amplitude is pretty low. Like you're 3 feet instead of 13 inches from the mic.
Did that help at all? Is that any different? Is that better?
You're still at the same You're still at the same volume.
Huh.
He'll be back.
All right. Yeah, I carry a Benchmade Casbah, and it's a 3.5-inch blade, but it's a gentle looking butter knife but it keeps a good sharp blade. And I've been carrying that for about 4 years now. But I've always carried a 3.5-inch. I mean, even in college, they called me Buck Knife.
Yeah, Buck 110. Carry him every day when I'm not at work.
Yeah, mine were always in my pocket. You know, the not a fixed blade. You know, like the 2-blade buck, and then when it got longer, and then when it went 3-blade, and then I just switched over to Swiss Army. But yeah, I mean, you know, a pocket knife has almost always been something that's in a gentleman's pocket. So yeah, I never really considered it as a weapon. It was more like it was a combination. It was a utility knife. It could have been a fighting knife, but yeah, that's why I chose the butterfly. Plus, it's cool, and switchblades and stilettos were illegal.
Yeah, I read that back before Blade HQ, there was another knife company that was even bigger, and then Blade
Smoky
HQ
Mountain?
didn't get. What was the company like 15 years ago that was bigger than Blade HQ?
Smoky Mountain Knife Works, I think.
No, it was. Anyway, they wouldn't sell a semi-auto blade unless you were a policeman or a quadriplegic. And so I had to get paperwork to say I was a quadriplegic, and then Blade HQ. But every time I had to get a doctor's note, the same way I'd just get my doctor to say, hey, I need a note saying I'm a quadriplegic from a driver's license. And I'd send it to this blade company, and they would sell me a auto knife. And then when Blade HQ came on the scene, they didn't care about a letter. They just said, are you a policeman or quadriplegic? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a quadriplegic. And they go, yeah, okay. And so then 10 years ago, nobody cared. They just sold anything. So I don't know what the law, something happened about 10 years ago, and, just switchblades became legal across the country, it seems like.
Does this work now?
Yeah,
you're better.
much better.
I don't know if it changed as much as I don't think switchblades are illegal anywhere as much as they're just illegal to carry around. I think you can own them in your house pretty much anywhere, right? So that's what people are probably doing, is just buying them when they can get them and just not taking them out.
Well, I think there's a definite change in the way they sell them and the way that people are buying them. Because, it used to be a lot more difficult to actually buy them about 10 or 12 years ago. And now it's just, all you got to do is, just buy one on the internet and it's yours. Or even in stores in Georgia, they just sell them, at the gas station even.
They were definitely very rare. Like, if you want to go back 20, 25 years, I had switchblades, but I definitely bought them from like other shady characters that I knew. I didn't buy them at a store.
Yeah. Like 35 years ago, you'd go to Mexico or Italy to buy them. You couldn't even buy them in the States.
Oh yeah, when I was in Mexico, I learned how to ask at the bazaars, cuchillo de automática, automatic knife, and I brought them back. The other thing was my first switchblade was a monster from Eastern Europe that a friend of mine who went touring through what are now all the split up states of the Soviet Union and stuff, and he stopped at this joint where it was a shop that made them. It was like pure custom kind of stuff, and he brought those back, and he was sweating a little bit, but yeah, you couldn't even find one here. It just didn't exist. So mine was an international import.
Right.
Whenever I wanted to do switchblade, I would just go down to one of the cities and then fight with an Italian gang until they switchblade on me. Hit him in the hand.
Just go sneak around Italian gangs and slice their throats and grab their knives.
I have this image of
I don't need a knife.
the Good Side, West Side Story.
Smack him in the hand with a fish or something. What the hell? And they drop the knife. All right. Well, speaking of Italian gangs, I don't know how this made me think of that. But anyway, I watched, it was a documentary on the Bee Gees, actually. It was documentary. It's like a disco documentary. So it's pretty new. So I'm guessing no one's ever seen it. But does anybody know the significance of the soundtrack from Saturday Night Fever? The main song, Night Fever?
DJ, you're up.
Yeah, do you mean like the backstory of that song?
the significance of it.
Oh, geez. Well, that soundtrack had a lot of significance, and so did the film. So I'll start
about all that, and I didn't want to have like an hour discussion on it. I'm asking the whole group if anybody knows the significance of what that song, because
No.
specifically addressed that song in there as having something unique about it. At least they say it. Now I don't know if that's actually true, but they.
You talked about Staying Alive?
No, the song.
Night Fever.
There's a bunch of songs, but the song that we're talking about is Night Fever. That's the one. It's like Fever, Night Fever, Night Fever.
Yep.
You don't have to show it. Yep.
All right. Well, anyway, the deal that they said, which I don't know, like I say, they say it, but the drummer, something happened. The drummer had to leave, so they were filming, or what do they call it, recording that album. And there is a shit ton of great, like it created disco or whatever. It's like a big album. Anyway, whenever they were recording that particular song, drummer had to leave. So that's when the one guy was like, hey, you know what? I could just take his drum beat and just turn that into this and then splice it. And they spliced it into this like 8-foot long piece of tape that like ran off the table and around, and then had this other thing as a counterweight. And it would just go do, 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 like the drum beat was just a thing, a loop. Yeah. And then they were like, if we can do that with the drum, why don't we do that with the bass? And then they did it with like 5 different things like this. And they would make the tape into a whatever, that loop into another tape so they could manipulate it. Anyway, so they did all that, and they were like, oh, we were just going to do that until the drummer came back because we just didn't feel like stopping recording, right? But then they're like, except everybody fucking dug that, and that became whatever, like that concept became a thing to build beats off of or something, according to this documentary.
Well, just a little bit more information on that. Tape delay and those kind of effects, they've been around since the 60s. And stomp box guitar pedals that do that, and it doesn't have to be guitar. It can be Vokes, any other thing.
Echo, though, right?
Well, no, that's a separate effect. But what you can do is it's chopping and splicing is what we call it in broadcasting. So you'll record your Voke track, and then you'll splice it to the length that has the commercial. But you can also, in a second bus or second channel, you can add everything. So it's multi-tracking, and that's really a Martin and the Beatles thing.
Well, we needed Led Zeppelin.
They didn't say they invented multi-tracking. They said that they took the idea of just not having a drummer there and making a loop of the drummer doing his thing, and then
like
that
loop is exactly it. That's where that comes from. So all digital looping, once we get to digital, you can just do it with ease instead of having to chop actual ferritic applied damn acetates. So that was one of the great things about the development of a looper. And so what it's come to be in modern usage is just really advanced, but the essence is that you're simply accessing the audio, and then you can just click sample that. Sample is another word that we use now in digital, and then loop it. So do cut it, loop it, became possible. So that was
Hey,
that's
cool. Was that Columbus, Georgia, or Columbus, Ohio? I guess Columbus, Georgia, like Ranger Joe's, one of those places.
No, he's in Ohio, but there were Centuries in 5 places. I remember the Century ad would tell you where they were. I've been to Century. Well, I definitely ordered from Century. I've been to places that I don't know if they were Century or not, actually. Now that I think about it, I was too little. But I'm guessing they were just like Century. But I definitely remember their ads. There's a whole bunch of, I've used that ad more than once for this show. There's Ninja ads for the Daily Gun Show that use a Century ad.
Yeah, when I was in the Army in '84, we went to Ranger Joe's. It was right outside of Fort Benning, and then I went back there 2 years ago, and it was almost the same. It was pretty funny, going there.
The surplus stores out front of posts and bases are the best, because at least typically are the best, because all them people that either collect stuff, because a bunch of people in service collect stuff or acquire stuff, and then need a couple of bucks. mean, it's not like, I mean, I guess it's possible that some of that stuff's getting stolen, but I think it's less stolen as much as just people that are around it all the time. And, you know, like when I was in, every time they'd throw away a crate or a thing of books or something, I'm like, I'll take them. Like, give me them. I'll take them. And as long as they said I could, I'd take them home. So you know, I got a bunch of shit just because I was there, and I'm not going to let shit get thrown away in front of me. And if I was selling that stuff to surplus stores, you know, like those are usually pretty good, but all the other surplus stores have dried up. But I would assume those are the ones that, well, in my experience, those are the ones that still, well, that's not true. There are a couple out there that have nothing to do with a fort or a base, but most of them out in front of a place are pretty good.
Whenever we'd have somebody go AWOL, our sergeant would say, all right, he'd cut the lock off whoever went AWOL, and he'd say, I'm going to come over here and do inventory in 2 or 3 hours. So y'all do whatever you want. And we would just go pilfer that whole wall locker, and steal whatever we wanted. And he'd come back, because then he didn't have to inventory nearly as much. And the soldier, whenever they called him up with a bill, he would owe $800 in GI equipment that he never turned in properly.
What? That's what?
So they had this deal: you could send anything home in a Greyhound, any box, and I think it was like $45 unlimited weight. And I would just get a big toilet paper box and put like, poncho liners and ponchos and Alice packs and all kinds of crap, canteens and canteen covers, LB, everything. I just, whatever anybody did left in that locker, I just throw in there in that box. And once a month or two, I had like 6 of those boxes I brought home.
Well, back to bases being nearby things. Omaha, the home, or Bellevue, Nebraska, a suburb of Omaha, the home of Strategic Air Command. One of the sad things I have to report is that this summer, and it has to do with the decreased business and closures and stuff like that, that was our last surplus store, and it's gone. There is no commercial outlet anymore, and even the pawn shops, that they don't take in things like that. It just doesn't make sense for them to become like a clothier or something like that. Yeah, it's just, they're gone.
There's no the pressure. There's no pressure there. Like anything that is like that just goes on eBay or Craigslist, and that took up all the whatever slack or whatever, the lack of the store being there.
Yeah. I just bought a field jacket liner, what 65, a field jacket liner, and it was I got a extra large and a large for $8 and $8 shipping.
Nice.
Huh. That's score.
They're so great. I mean, and I wasn't sure which one I'd need, because I'm kind of in between large and extra large. So, and I'm gonna just wear it under a shirt a lot. Like I could wear a flannel shirt with a poncho liner under it, and we got the field jacket liner under it, and look like I don't have a jacket on.
No, this was an eBay wheels. This was eBay.
Yeah, eBay. They run about, you can get them for like $16 and $8 shipping, but this one's going up for bid, and just nobody bid, and I got it for $8 and $8 shipping. Wow. But normally they're like, they're usually about $14 and $4 shipping. So those are the ones you could buy.
I've had really good success, at least with international surplus, going through Finland and Holland, and there's no VAT, no value added tax if it's shipping to the United States, and they're using DHL. And I've had 2 international packages. They got here in under a week, because these things don't go through customs. It's just surplus stuff. It's not weapons. You can't do that. And I, trying to source some of that stuff in the United States. Well, fellas, I'm sorry, but your distributors or whatever, international distributors, are not giving you a good price or some shit, or you just want to gouge like hell, because it's double, triple. And there are these guys that are selling Rothko reproductions of like Vietnam field blouses or whatever, and they're charging like $100. You can go to Rothko and get them for 50. I don't understand these internet online surplus stores at all.
I know, like a Rhodesian rig, they run like $100 here in the States, and you can get them overseas for like 25 with,
25. Yeah.
$35. I mean, a third of the price.
Yeah, and a lot of people these days in surplus are really sucking up what's left of the German produced market, because they have now switched to destroying, not surplusing. So like the classic Flecktarn, the modern Flecktarn, that stuff doubled and tripled in price, and you cannot find large sizes. I don't know who in the United States is small except for children, honestly. We are a grossly overweight, over large society in a lot of ways, besides, beer bellies or, people who just like to eat. So, when I'm trying to find like an extra large long or something like that, they're not there. Can't find them anymore.
And they're double the price too.
Yeah, double, triple.
They barely existed. And those things, surplus things from the Cold War, you had to deal with people like me buying that stuff out of catalogs back in the day.
Yeah.
But
if you get if you're looking for an item, you can look up that long military code. You know what I'm talking about, that clothing code.
Yeah.
And then you could search on that clothing code and get that exact size. And then you just search Google, and you could really find them cheap that way.
Wow, that's a great idea. Thanks, man. Gee, what website are you looking at right now? I'm on a phone, so I can't really see.
This is Sportsman's Guide.
Okay, yeah, I've ordered stuff from them. They're a good joint.
Yeah, I like this place. And since you guys are talking about it, made me think about, first, they're a big surplus buyer. I've bought stuff off of this from when we were talking like in the 90s in the catalog. I know I bought stuff in the 90s. I might have even bought stuff in the 80s. I'm just trying to remember when I first started. I know
Did they got polypropylene underwear?
What?
Was that polypropylene underwear up there? Up a little higher? Right there.
This is a base layer Under Armour. I don't know what Under Armour's made of. $33 so.
Modern stuff.
Yeah, $33 on clearance. So I used to get the catalog back in the day, and I still own a bunch of stuff out of the catalog and I would buy surplus stuff like for $3, $2. And then, so I would sit there with the catalog, depending on what work I had, on break or during work or whatever. And I would think around, like, this is a backpack, military surplus in multicam. Basically the new equivalent of an Alice for $37.
Yeah.
So what the fuck, right? Like, that's designed to hold any amount of weight and then hold you out of a helicopter. I mean, it's gonna, if anything was ever made well, it's gonna be some lesser version of how well this is made, right? For $37.
We had those First Loyal backpacks. They were incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying, this is like, you can't beat that kind of deal. So I would buy shit like this all the time. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know. So, but I've been to the thing that's happens. This is their clearance. Holy shit, their clearance thing has 5 pages. Let me see if I can make it more than.
Yeah.
More than one per page. I'm going to go to view all. Then I can just scroll through it. But make it bigger. So there's a show that happens around SHOT Show in Vegas, where all of the surplus stores get together and do this sort of trade show. So we've been to that a couple of times. It's super interesting, but I just can't go. It's super frustrating. Like, I freak out. I can't go there. So what it is, though, is there's like crap. There's a lot of crap, right? Like the junk that you see at a surplus store. So those people are there selling their crap. And then there's like a German guy, and he's like, here's a piece of paper with a shit ton of stuff, and it'll be like that blanket and that boot, or like, here's a bunch of bayonets, or like, here's some weird part of a stretcher, like just all this shit. And it's like a quarter, a nickel, a quarter. Like, oh, that'll be $1 US for that, please. And these guys are like, Well, and the other problem is, here's the piece of paper, and here's everything that costs a quarter or a nickel. Oh, this is awesome. Here's $50. Can I have this? And they're like, fuck you. Like, you got to buy $1,000 worth of shit minimum or something. So all these stores can come in and buy. All we can do is go in there and freak out about how much stuff actually costs. So this stuff doesn't cost anything, but come on, they got to put it in a fucking shipping container and drag it over here. Like, how much does that cost? And then once they get it here, customs will go, these mittens got a lead blah 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 on it, so drop them off into the fucking thing, or like, you got to take all that little tag off, that's a choking hazard. Like, they got all kinds of stupid shit they got to deal with. And then once they get them here, they got to hold on to them. So now they're like bannermen. Like, they're holding on to this Siberian military surplus fire helmet until some movie needs 40 of them, or until 200 collectors decide they want one, right? Like, that's what you're really paying for, is the warehousing of all of this other shit that nobody wants. And like this, you fucking think that I'm going to ever let like a 4XL long German military fucking uniform fucking sit there? Like, fuck you. I'm buying that fucking raincoat. Like, you can't just expect to get a normal size American size shit in 2020. Like, that shit all got bought. So yeah, you got to either be like tall, skinny, short little person, or luck out. But like this Italian military thing for $10, $1,000,000 says that. Yeah, like, you're right. That's going to be all SSS, XXS, or whatever the fuck that is, right? I don't know, that large.
Extra small. Yeah. You're either extra small or you're extra huge. Yeah.
But large, that ain't bad. A whole sweatsuit from Italy. It says some weird ass Italy shit on it. Espressito. Right? Espressito. What the fuck? You walk around acting all weird for $10. It's fucking amazing. Makes me want to be a large. Not really. But look at regular people that are larges, they walk around paying $11 for their clothes. That's a whole set of clothes. You can wear that for like weeks for $10. They're acting like they're hurting for money. I don't believe it. Large people, they got all the money they need. Let's see. Oh, here's the sucker bet. It's in ACU. It's not really in stupid multicam. It's in shitty ACU, but it's still only $37. So in the back of a truck or something.
What is ACU?
That's that shitty digital crap on the screen here. It's like gray, and it's like a digital urban almost. It's like a gray and green and tan. It's not a.
Yeah, I know which one that is. Yeah,
not green.
So 90s?
No, 2007 or 10 or something.
Okay.
Once we had to fight in towns. It's for towns. It's for inside of cities, for rubble, and never know what the hell you're going to be standing next to, and who really cares at this point, because you'll just paint it whatever color you need it to be, or it'll get all bloody in a minute. Like, they didn't care anymore. It was like before they knew multicam was coming, and it was going to just be the end. Like, they wouldn't need to ever do anything again. So they were like, just fill in whatever at this point, whatever's cheapest. But it's still a massively good backpack for $37. Let's see. This boot here is the same exact boot that I own. This is the boot that I walk around in. And what sizes do they got?
Like 5, 6, 7, 8, and then what?
13, 10, 9.5. Look at that.
Oh, 10.
13. 10s, yeah. And they're $43 fucking dollars. This is a very compliant made in Illinois boot for the Air Force, I think, with a sole that is, it's aggressive, but it's not like you're walking around on cleats. You're just walking around on a normal work boot. It's not, sometimes the aggressive ones are pointless on like a carpet or something. You feel like you're walking around on ice skates. They're not like that. You can walk around on a normal surface pretty good. Super comfortable. I'm buying the shit out of this boot as soon as we're done with this show, because I got to go check what size I am. But mine are okay. They're actually fucking perfect. I bought used when Bob was trying to buy boots in America, because they can't buy boots in Canada. So he was ducking into a surplus store in here in Tucson, acting like an American so he could buy boots off of us. And they were sitting there and I couldn't help buying them. They were like my size. And I've been wearing them for I don't know how many fucking miles, tons of miles on them now. There's like right here where the whatever sole part meets the leather it just barely ripped, like, you know, maybe like a cactus poked it there, and it's, I don't know, I probably didn't pay attention. It got wet and then dry, so it's just peeling back from there, and it's super quality, so it's not like falling apart, but I know that you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the fray. Like, I know it's going to start fucking falling apart from there. I'll probably put some glue or something on it, but fuck, I paid $35, and these are $200 boots. Like, if the government was buying these, they're $200, $180 something if we buy them. 43 effing dollars. That's amazing. And that's just on their clearance.
I got some surplus dinner boots that are Gore-Tex lined, and they were $89. They were surplus, but they weren't. They were almost brand new, or looked brand new. Just didn't have a box.
Surplus doesn't necessarily mean that they've been used. These are brand new. These look
Right.
brand new.
Yeah,
They're just clearance, probably because they went to a different model or some different color or who knows what. But I'm definitely buying them. I like these boots a lot. And the only thing, every once in a while I get butthurt that I don't get free shit from people from, you know, pouring out their shit or whatever. And that's just like, dang, if I could, I'd get a pair of them boots for nothing because they were like $180. Now, boom, getting them for $43. Unless one of you sons of bitches out there is going to end up buying them before I get over there. Here's another one. Let's see what we got. $5 blouse is what they call it in the Army. It's really a jacket, but
Right.
yeah, extra small or small.
Yeah.
Fuck. I was like, oh, I'll buy one and make patches out of it. Fuck, extra small is like the size for a monkey. If I had a monkey, I'd buy the shit out
Right.
of it. $5. I'd make like 6 patches out of this if I got it. But this is that number you're talking about, the NSN.
yeah.
You can search for that and find it on eBay or something probably. So this I put in there because it's a $5 baseball hat. I just wanted to see where it was made. It doesn't say. So I'm guessing. Oh wait, we keep going. Detail specs, country of origin.
You know, for those who don't list the origin country, they're like, for me, almost like 100% foreign made. And because, you know, people want to talk about, you know, American made. They don't want to talk less about assembled from American components overseas. And then the next, you know, it's assembled with native sources internationally and then imported. So yeah, that's a hassle. But those you know, what strikes me with all the extra small and small shit is you could outfit your kid who's interested in that stuff for like $100. He could be from every country with their uniforms and shit. That would have been great.
No, that's 100% accurate. Yeah. Like, I don't know if you got a kid that would fit into an extra small or a small. What the hell's wrong with you? These are $5, 69 cents. What the fuck is wrong with you? Three color desert is the second, well, it's the third best camo. The only things better are when they put chocolate chips in there or multi-cam.
Right.
My son is 12. I mean, I should get him something, huh?
Unless you want to be a bad parent. But no, that's true because you can buy that at a local. You're always going to find extra smalls everywhere. But you're right. You could get extra small in like other countries, though. Extra small. I mean, I guess the kid's got to be little because other countries are littler than us. So their small would be little. Their larges are littles for us. So this thing's $23. It is some sort of U.S. military surplus escape
Beekeeper suit?
Huh?
What is a respirator or a beekeeper suit?
No, it's a emergency escape thing, breathing device. So it must be to get out of somewhere that had plastic. So I'm guessing it's nowhere that was burning, maybe a chemical issue. It's got oxygen in it. So maybe a situation like a chemical plant where it wasn't on fire, but they were going to need to have oxygen because it has an oxygen tank in it, it looks like.
Kind of a NBC suit.
What is NBC?
Really, I don't know. I mean, it's an escape suit. It's not for hanging out. It's for getting the fuck out of there. It's only got so much oxygen, but it says it's got oxygen in it.
So that's just like it's a hood thing, like a chemical suit hood.
You know, you put this hood over your face. I mean, you're looking at it, aren't you? You got this hood over your face with a window in it, and and behind it is just like a scuba tank, except it's a one-time use, probably like a big ass CO2 tank made out of oxygen. And then it blows oxygen inside that hood for as long as it takes you to get the hell out of wherever you just broke something or whatever you did. A lot of times, like when they're making zombie gases or the nuclear materials that would make like a Godzilla, those kind of labs, you're going to have to get the hell out of there if you break a test tube. And that's what they're going to give you, right? You put this thing on the table next to you, I guess. Because that's the thing. It's made out of plastic, so it can't be like a burning situation. This isn't like an airplane is going down and it's on fire. They would have made this out of metal. So I'm thinking this is some sort of laboratory thing.
Makes sense. What's the price tag?
$25. There might be. It says it's from the 1980s, so whatever that means. But yeah, it says and an oxygen generator. So that's an oxygen generator in there. But it's probably like an MRE thing. It's probably just like aluminum and steel that when you pull on that, it puts water in it. So I doubt that, that chemical reaction is still going to happen. I doubt that it, turns into some poison gas over time. It probably just isn't as effective. But it says you get 15 minutes of breathable air. So, you maybe get 10 now or something. But it says not free. So
I didn't know those kind of things existed.
Oh yeah, I mean, think about it. Whoever's making poison gases and stuff, or working around things that, would evacuate air from an area. There's all kinds of chemicals that'll pull air.
Yeah, I was just thinking of like level 5 labs where you're suited up and you have umbilicals and stuff like that. That's just like a quick portable version. That's neat.
Yeah, basically.
Or maybe everybody's makes plastics down in Louisiana, and there's some really dangerous gases coming out of those factories. That if you turn on the wrong valve, I mean, he's like a supervisor, and he has to do these certain check valves, and he opened up one that was under a tent that they put under there to keep the rain off, where you could check the valves, and he got it all filled up with the gas. Somebody left it halfway open, and he thought it was closed, and he got all his hands and eyebrows burned off. Got 3rd-degree burns on his hands. They had to do skin grafts everywhere, but he's better now. Back to work. Company's called Sasol. It's a pretty good investment to own. I bought it when the oil prices were way down, and it's back up already.
So I'm afraid of this one. It's a Turkish military reversible poncho and gaiter set. So it's got this crazy poncho with arms, and then you got these little pantaloon thingies that it's all reversible from winter to summer like that, but there's no size. So I'm guessing it's tiny, because how the fuck big can people be in Turkey?
Turkish guys are pretty average size.
You have to see them, but I don't believe it. At least not our average.
What's in that? Like it's tailored. It's a poncho.
It's a poncho, but it's got like arms. So I don't know. They're using the loosest term ever of a poncho. I mean, I don't know how the hell it's a poncho with arms. So it's a raincoat with a wing, like a cape. It's from Turkey. They're half Italian, so they don't care.
Yeah, but I went backpacking there. There's a bunch of big Turkish guys there. It's not like they're all small. I mean, I'd say they're averaging, 5'10".
I don't know. Whatever. We're not here to debate the size of Turkish people. I'm just saying, I'm guessing this is a tiny ass fucking poncho, and if I got it, I'd be pulling a Chris Farley on this $19 poncho. Is all I'm saying.
All right, yeah, but it looks like a cool poncho, especially if it's reversible.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm frustrated because fucking Europe always over there making everything tiny. Fucking tiny people. Otherwise, I'd have this cheap ass tracksuit. Oh, look at this. It's screwed out of advertising their shit for free. Actually, it's not for free. They hook me up. They pay me every month. They're the only company that pays me, and that's how I hook them back up, by saying they're good, because they are good. Let's see. So, ever seen Charlie? What? Ever seen, remember? Charlie, it's about gas safety. Is that some kind of a safety video or something? But no, they only have 10s and 13s over there.
Charlie is, the bad guy over in Vietnam. He was small.
Oh yeah, I hear you. Oh, I see what you're saying. He's basically talking about two different things. Asian AWA, Asian World of Martial Arts, AWMA. That was another one besides Century. So is that what you're talking about, Woods?
Not really. Because being in Seattle when I was a kid, we just have to jump on a bus and we could go to the Asian market.
Yeah.
And that's where we got all our throwing stars and all that kind of stuff. And especially those shinais that we broke 100 of them easy.
Yeah.
Fighting each other all.
We liked them a lot. And we would go to the Karate Mart place like Century or Asian World of Martial Arts. And then that was like that would be like you'd go into there and there'd be like a pile of mats like 6 feet tall. Like there was, like a karate dojo would go there and buy stuff maybe. And then they'd have like a whole bunch of the uniforms, right? And they'd have like dozens of those swords and stuff. But then you go to and that's where we thought that's where you buy everything because they got dozens of everything. This is where you buy it. But that was like retail. That was like full retail. And then maybe you got a sale once in a while to encourage you to go there. But then as soon as we figured out what you're talking about, go to Chinatown and just look around.
Yeah.
Boom. Everything's like a penny or a nickel. It's like, oh, you want Chinese stars? Like, shit, how many do you want? Like, here's a big box of them, kid.
The same place would also sell your mama lamp and some rugs and everything else you could think of that they could shove in.
Yeah, mom crap. Like garbage that you wouldn't even care about. Like nothing that was appealing to us. And then they'd have a shit ton of martial arts stuff. Yeah, it was amazing. That was actually, and I don't know how we learned about that. I think word just got around because they never advertised or nothing. But I think that's what would happen is you'd go to class and then somebody'd be like, look at these size I got. You'd be like, how the hell did you afford size? Did your parents win the lottery? What do you mean you got size? Are you a ninja? And then it's like, no, I went to the blah, blah, blah. And then when my mom was buying your blah, blah, blah walk or some shit, like, I went over here and bought these size for a quarter. Like, what?
Yeah, I blew up San Francisco's Chinatown twice. Once when I was a teenager, and then when I was around 30. And it was my rabid pursuit of dim sum. And here in Omaha, we had only a small population of Asian, and now I'm happy to report we've got like a dozen, grocery and general trade item stores here in town. It's great. I can get anything I want now.
Where was I? I was in. Who the hell is digging through their cigar box and Matchbox cars? Take your microphone out of the box. I was in. I don't remember anymore. I think I was in wherever it is that Minnesota hits North Dakota. I was whatever. Is that Billings, North Dakota? No, that's Fargo, North Dakota. I was in fucking Fargo. Is it Fargo? Dang, I think it was in Fargo. And I'm looking for vegan restaurants. They don't have one. Or they didn't have it. No, they did. They had one in the fancy part of town, and I refused to be like going to the fancy part of town. Actually, I tried, and it was too much. It was too difficult to park the van. So I had to go look for something else. So anyway, I looked for Mediterranean food, which I can often find vegan options there, right? So anyway, I find a Mediterranean market, which is even better, right? Because I don't have to pay for the food or the restaurant part of it. I can just get the stuff raw or, from the deli, basically. So I go into Fargo, North Dakota, and they had camel milk. Would you have thought you'd find camel milk in a place in Fargo, North Dakota?
Wow.
Is it fresh?
What? Actually, they didn't have it. Otherwise, I would have had it. They normally had it, they said, but they didn't have it right then. Because otherwise, I would have had it. Because I'm like, Fargo, camel milk, what the hell does that taste like? I'll take a pint of that, please. But they didn't have it. They get it from, I forgot now. You said like Montana or someplace. There's a camel farm and they get it.
What?
I guess,
Gee.
look around. They might have it in your town. Like I say, it's like a can't be.
Yeah, we have 3 Mediterranean groceries here in town. And I used to blow them up in the 90s because you just couldn't find it anywhere else. It was great. Oh, and spices. Holy shit. They used to get stuff by the kilo, break it out in like 1 ounce or 2 ounce packages, throw it on the shelves, and you could get like they were all like $1, 3 or 4 times the amount and the quality of domestic spice carriers. Like
you're talking like paprika or red pepper and just regular spices,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Exactly.
dill.
And it would be like exactly, well, it's probably, well, it's not as good, but yeah, it would definitely be a whole different level than whatever dried out shit you got at a supermarket.
Exactly what shit.
But that's where restaurants would go, and that's why restaurants used to taste better, because a restaurateur would go to a place like that or get a delivery from a place like that. Like they'd get a giant shipment straight from wherever the pepper factory is, and then maybe like a chunk. I actually had a client back in the website days. She wasn't a restaurant though, or she was really just spices, but that's what she did. She would just buy actual spices from some salt factory or pepper factory, and then bring it over here, chop it all up into little tiny samples, and basically sell those little tiny samples for a lot of money. She was not poor.
Yeah, I used to have to go through an outfit in Chicago because they did their own importation and blending and stuff like that. Super high quality, great prices, and always available. I think the name was something really generic, like Spice House or something like that. But they would send out catalogs. This was still paper catalog days. It was great.
All right. So whoever the hell is wailing under my quit. So then we got Garrett throwing $5 at me. Appreciate it. But I'm now considering that my petroleum fund. I'm using that to build the. That would be. Is that one? No. That is. I think I paid 15. So I think I paid $15 for 4. So that's almost a whole thing of propane, really. Or is that more? I'm trying to do the math and it's too late. But anyway, I appreciate it because, like I say, I've got the heater going, but I don't really have it going on super blast. I don't really need to heat the whole house. So I just kind of keep it going so the house isn't the same temperature as outside, but cold. And then I throw this little heater on over here that I usually have in the van, which is almost a trickle heater. I really, really like it. It barely, so a 1 pound can of propane will last like 2 days. Not all, just for 2 days, leave it on, but you can.
Is that the one Edwards gave you?
No, that was a little electric one. I burned that out. It actually caught a fire, started a fire. But I don't use electric anymore after the fire. I went back to propane. So, because I can't burn down the house with propane. But this one is, it's not really fire. It is a piece of ceramic or something. And then with like holes in it, I don't know what the hell. It's like a petrified sponge. And then it blows propane through it, and it's hot, but it isn't technically on fire. I don't think it's a, what do they call that? Ceramic heater, I guess. I don't know, but
Yeah.
It has a pilot light and it must have a flame, but you can't see it. It just trickles heat. It's amazing. It's really, really cool. Like the other one I had was not the smallest one, I don't think. It was just the one that I happened to have from back in the days going hunting and stuff. And that thing, I would turn it on in the van. And my van isn't tiny, but it isn't huge either. I would turn it on, and then moments later, you had to turn it off. It was just fucking hot in there. And then you would turn it off, and then the van would lose heat, and it would just be like, damn it, you'd have to keep turning it on like every 15 minutes, and it would get unreasonably hot there for a little while, and then you turn it off, and it would be okay for a minute, and then it would start getting really cold, and then it would be unbearable. You have to turn the fucking thing on. Just not comfortable, and there was no way to put a thermostat because it was either on or off, and even on the lowest temperature, it was just a on off, no kind of thermostat or anything. So this thing is different. And And I think the way you look at these portable heaters is how many BTUs. And let's say the other one I have is something like, let's say 10,000 to 40,000, because it's really designed like to put in a garage or some shit. Really, it's big.
Yeah.
The little ones are like, let's say 5,000. This one is like, let's say 7,500. So it's not the smallest thing you can ever get, which is kind of too small for anything. This thing is a nice size, but the price is for some reason the most expensive one, probably because they figured out, oh, this is the perfect one. Like, this is the one that everyone's going to want. It's the kind where if you put it near you, you're warm, but you're not trying to heat the whole room. So it's, since it only barely trickles propane, you can set it near you and it'll keep like a couple of people. It'll keep you warm. It'll keep a couple of people warm sitting around eating or something. Even outside, I bet it's almost like a campfire, but it'll last for 5 hours, I think, if you just turned it on and let it go. I mean, it lasts a long time off of 1 pound of propane.
That sounds hyper efficient.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with it. So I've had it in the van, but now what I do, like I say, is just leave the house kind of cold, but not, I do have it heated on. But then I just turn this thing on. I pump it on, basically. I turn it on, you'll hear it. Maybe when I turn it on one. I don't know if you can hear it really. It doesn't really make any noise either. But anyway, I appreciate it, Garrett, because that's keeping me warm for probably 2 days of daily gun show.
What I used in my van was just an inexpensive Coleman where you screw it onto the top of the can and boom, punctures, and you can turn it on, it clicks and it goes. The drag with that was, the night I spent in Idaho at like stupid fucking elevation, plus you have to crack the damn window or you're gonna, CO2 yourself. So it would only last like 4 hours, and it was only effective for like the second hour because it finally was getting the ambient temperature up. But that sounds a lot better. And one of the things that while you were talking reminded me of something that used to be a deal in the 70s. So you might be able to recall this. But you remember white gas hand warmers where it looked like a giant Zippo lighter and it had a velvet sleeve, or wasn't velvet, but had like a soft sleeve over it. You got that thing going. It had like access through a small hole to draw O2. And you could actually just like, besides holding it, you could actually stick it in your pocket for a minute or two. Do you remember those?
Oh, they still make them. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Make them. Yeah. I don't have. I do maybe have one. I just never use them. So. Oh, it's because you got to have fucking Zippo fuel all the time. Who all has Zippo fuel laying around? But yeah, that's basically what they are. It's just a big Zippo with a wick, and then they just kind of keep going. They just burn themselves without doing anything.
Yep, football games in the fall.
I had one as a kid that was like, it was like a little piece of charcoal, and you'd burn that, and then you'd put it in that little velvet case, and it would just sit and smolder in your pocket.
Oh, so anyway, his comment was, how frowned upon is me drilling and tapping my pre-1900 USA-made vise to metric. How the fuck would you do that? What do you got to drill on a vise to make it metric anyway? You're talking about the...
It sounds like 9mm.
Shaft? I watched I seen a thing. I didn't watch it. I seen a thing where they took... What the hell did they take? They took a, like a hydraulic pump that you would use. You've seen these like hydraulic jack, I guess. Kind of looks like a bicycle pump, but you kind of step on it, and that is the hydraulic, which adds the hydraulic pressure to the thing. Anyway, they took one of them and took the screw part of the vise out. And I'm like, oh, that kind of looks interesting. I never thought about having a vise that had a pneumatic or whatever pressure thing on there so that you could just walk up and step on it and it would clamp your vise. And then when you did something, it would unclamp it. That'd be neat. So you could have like a hands-free vise without having to fucking screw it in. But I don't know. Let's see if he says. No, he doesn't even say. He's just scared to say what he's about to do to that poor vise. So what do you think? Pre-1900 vise? Honestly, I don't think anybody cares. Like, is there some sort of vise collector's realm? I mean, I guess there could be, but I can't imagine they would hate you for I would think they'd probably be the same way as like when somebody takes an Enfield that isn't in great shape, right? And then thinks with it, makes it into a hunting rifle or something, or tries to turn it into something that it's not. Like, okay, you didn't need to do it, but at least you had fun with it, and it's your gun, so go ahead and do what you want to do.
Yeah,
If you were taking like a pristine one off the shelf or something, and then said, you know what, I'm going to deface it, like, then probably somebody would have a problem with it.
Well, I'm a little confused still because it's just the word vice. Because I'm thinking of bench vice, and there's nothing that's metric or imperial about that. You just start cranking it into any measurement.
When you got a metric vice, you can only clamp it down on the metric measurements. The
What?
regular standard, it won't even it'll round the standard stuff off.
I guess I've never tried metric in a vice before.
That's like when a left-handed person tries to use a right-handed vice. They can't tighten nothing down, right?
Okay.
or when they try to shoot right-handed guns.
Oh yeah, they can't shoot right because they're shooting left. Let's see. So I don't know. He's not going to tell us. No, I don't think anybody's going to care though. Make a YouTube video about it, and then you'll find out. Then people will care, and they'll tell you everything you did wrong about it. Tell you how you did it wrong, why you did it wrong, what you could have done better.
And revising a previous standard is pretty common. So I guess it's maybe just the age. It's a question of age and metric. But, really, who the hell else is going to know if you do that?
Your what do you call it? Your conscience. Your conscience.
Conscience, yeah.
Button head screws in stainless, 35 millimeters long in standard. Well, look for them in like 3 inches long or something. Whatever 35 millimeters is. Oh, 35 millimeters. Look for 1.5 inches. That's close enough. That's also a 40 or thicker.
I gotta go to bed, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure.
Right on.
Right on, man.
Mark, and I did yawn here already. And shouldn't keep staying up all night either. So, your choice. Oh, that's my screen share. So it's just me and DJ. So unless somebody else jumps in, we'll throw the link in here and see if anybody else does jump in. But a bunch of people jumped in. Will jumped in for a bit. Pink can't jump in because he's not 2A enough, and also he works or whatever. And then Clover never even showed up. Notice that? No Clover. Not even 2A enough to show up tonight. Patriot was kind of 2A enough to come in and give us first thumbs up. What the hell was I going to tell Patriot about? Oh, Patriot ain't even in here. Where'd Barbecue go? Barbecue ditched out of here also. Without even saying nothing, did he? No, he said back, by the way. No, and he ditched out of here. Well, maybe I'll bring that up another day then. Let's see. YouTube suggested I watch a guy restore a blood slicer. Huh, I wonder if they're doing that to all gun people. I keep seeing these things too. Like, hey, look, somebody restored an axe. Like, oh, look, they restored an anchor. What the fuck is this? Like, I never asked about this. I did watch a video where they took some kind of weird laser that was like a beam, like a line. Like, it wasn't just a dot, right? It was like a line. And so it was like a brush or something. And they would swipe this laser across something rusty. And on the other side, they swipe it. And on one side, it was rusty. And as they wiped it, came out like they burned basically a layer of the metal away with all the rust. So as they wiped it across the metal, it'd come out clean on the other side. I watched the shit out of that one time, but that's about the closest thing I've seen to or watched about those kind of videos. They constantly show them to me though. But I'll notice if I sign into YouTube like without a username, or if I don't, I guess if I just go to YouTube not signed in, or if you sign in with some old name that you never use very often, then that's the kind of video it shows you. So that must be some internationally interesting topic.
Yeah, I'm totally with that.
All right, well, I guess it's just us, and we will be back to pick you up later. Thanks everybody for showing up and watching. Thanks, Garrett, for the $5.